Incendies is a 2010 Canadian film co-written and directed by Denis Villeneuve. It was critically acclaimed, got nominated for Best International Film at the Oscars, won several awards and film festivals, and arguably launched his successful career in Hollywood. And I believe, up to this day, it still has the most horrifying plot twist I've ever seen in a piece of media. Why is that? Let me tell you why. And buckle up because, spoilers. A lot of them. The story follows Jean and her twin brother Simon, whose mother Nawal just passed away, suffering a stroke one day out of nowhere. The family's notary and close friend then reveals their mother left them 2 letters. The first one for their father, who they always believed was dead, to be delivered by Jean, and the second one for a brother they never even knew existed, to be delivered by Simon. While Simon stays behind, Jean ventures into her mother's home country in the Middle East, and while we follow her journey to find the truth, we also watch a series of flashbacks showing Nawal's grueling and sometimes violent past, as she got pregnant from a refugee she fell in love with, had the baby taken from her, and then got thrust into a civil war later in her life, joining Muslim fighters against the government. Meanwhile, they also learn tidbits from their lost brother, finding out he was captured by militants and brainwashed into a child soldier. As Jean gradually uncovers her past, with her brother Simon later joining her, the story keeps gaining momentum, and that leads into what I believe is the first point, which is the execution. What allows the big plot twist to hit so hard later in the movie is that, for the most part, the movie tempers your expectations while building up tension with revelations here and there, like the twins finding out they were a product of sexual assault, one that their mother suffered while in prison for killing a leader of the nationalists, perpetrated by a torturer named Abu Tarek, who used it as a tactic to break her. Nawal's past is at times a brutal thing to watch unfold. Whoever saw the bus scene know what I'm talking about. And in the present, it feels like the siblings are getting into a dangerous rabbit hole the further they dig. But it never feels like the movie is about to pull the rug from under your feet. It's an execution that drops your guard just enough that you're expecting sad answers to follow, but not ones that are gonna straight up demolish you. In any case, the story progresses, and now knowing who their father was and where he might be, the question then becomes who their brother is. They track the leader of the rebels, and Simon arranges a meeting with him. After hearing the truth, his sister finds him, and we get to the second point that elevates this incoming twist, which is the setup. So now, let's do a little exercise. One character has the answer, the big truth that he has to reveal to your other character. My question is, how would you have this scene play out? Maybe have the brother sit down and slowly talk with his sister, revealing bit by bit the horrifying truth. Or, as he's about to speak, you'd cut to a flashback showing what happened, who the brother truly was. After all, when it comes to storytelling, what better way than to use the show don't tell rule, right? But the genius of Villeneuve and his co-writer is using minimal dialogue and maximum emotion to let the characters and the revelation itself shine. What follows is just brilliant acting and directing at every level. Because the brother doesn't have anything big to say, he just makes a cryptic comment, repeats it for his sister, and then leaves her to figure out what he meant. And this is what happens next. Well, for starters, I just had goosebumps just editing this part of the video. That is how powerful this moment still is for me. Because the choice to have her slowly realize what he meant and release this horrifying gasp is just amazing. It's such a primal reaction we are not used to seeing in films. We don't usually hear people gasp unless they just realize something bad, so this triggers a certain part of your brain and freaks the fuck out of you. If you understood what the brother meant, you become as horrified as the sister, and probably reacts the same way she did. But if you, like me, still didn't understand what he meant by that, the hair in the back of your neck raises and you go into overdrive. You just got scared shitless and now you're desperate to know what happened. What did she realize that was so horrendous? Culminating into the final point, which is the content of the twist itself. This feels like a no-brainer for those who know what's about to follow, and frankly, what can be said about this final twist? A flashback that takes us back to the beginning of the movie, as Nawal finally finds her lost son and discovers he was also the torturer who abused and impregnated her, the father and brother of her 2 children. I really don't have any words to describe how gut-wrenching this is. and as the credits rolled, I remember needing a moment to stomach all that I had just seen. But in a weird way, I kinda respected this twist. It never felt cheap or out of left field. It's a revelation that destroys you and leaves you a mess afterwards, but it's completely in tune with this story and married to the film's themes. You look at those characters and ponder their fates. Two siblings who now know how they were conceived and who their father and brother were, now able to finally bury their mother and in the process understand why she was the way she was, but at what cost? A mother who went through a terrible ordeal, having her young years literally stolen from her and her humanity broken again and again, only to get in her old age and be forced to grasp a truth that was just too much. And finally, a child who was taken too soon from his cradle, brainwashed and forced to fight for a war he never asked for, becoming a pawn for the bigger guys and in the process, a monster that did unspeakable acts, only to realize later in his life that one of his victims was no one else than his own mother. As the brother finally receives a delivery from the twins, both who leave before he can read the letters and reach out to them, we have a closing shot as he visits Nawal's grave. And I think this moment caps off the movie and this twist in a perfect way. With what seems like regret on his face, the man looks at his mother's resting place, cursed to live with the knowledge that his actions broke her, his siblings, and simultaneously his children. The ultimate showcase of the cycle of violence and war that has scarred this broken family forever. Up to this day, as much as I love almost everything Villeneuve has done, I still see Incendies as one of his best films, a dramatic masterpiece that leaves you thinking about its themes and its characters long after it's all over. Although it is not nearly as popular as Dune or Blade Runner 2049, it's a movie that definitely deserves a lot more recognition. And I hope you enjoyed this essay. This film and specifically this plot twist is something that I always wanted to talk about. If you have other thoughts you'd like to add, please feel free to do so in the comments. Like, subscribe if you can as well, it helps this channel and allows me to continue making more content like this. And as always, this has been The Pretentious Writer. See you next time.